Half Moon Bay City Council. Welcome everybody, and thanks for coming this evening. We are going to start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Nagengast.
Here.
Councilmember Penrose.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ruddick.
Here.
Mayor Brownstone.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would all please join me by standing, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Make a motion to approve the agenda. Can we have a second?
So moved.
Second.
So moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? We have an approved agenda. We are going to start this evening with proclamations and presentations. And I am delighted to start with our first proclamation. And this proclamation is to honor IDES. And this evening to receive the proclamation are Mel Mello, Vice President, Shannon Henready, Treasurer, and Bill Borba, President. Thank you for being here tonight. And I'll give everybody a little background. Tonight we're very proud to recognize one of the most long-standing and impactful organizations in our community, the IDES Society of Half Moon Bay. Founded by Portuguese immigrants in 1871, the IDES Society has served as a cultural and civic cornerstone for more than 150 years. Thanks to a generous land donation in 1898 by the Dutra family, the Society built its first hall in 1911. The current hall, built in 1928, remains a vital gathering place today, nearly 100 years later. The Society continues to host its signature event, the Festa de Espíritu Santo, or also known as Chamarita, every year on Pentecost Sunday. This celebration is central to Portuguese American culture in the region. The hall is also home to many beloved community events, including the Pumpkin Festival, 4th of July Festival, Night of Lights, the Mel Mello Farm Day Luncheon, and Crab Chapino dinners. But beyond celebrations, the IDES Hall has opened its doors for moments of real community need. It was used as the reunification center following the tragic 2023 farm shootings and continues to host events like Safe and Sober Grad Nights, senior holiday lunches, and vital nonprofit fundraisers. The Society also gives back through scholarships and student service opportunities, and many of its members serve in civic leadership roles throughout Half Moon Bay. Most recently, on July 4th, they unveiled a beautiful and stunning new mural by local artist Julie Engelman. It beautifully honors the Azorean heritage of many Portuguese residents and celebrates their cultural contributions to our community. On behalf of the City Council, we are deeply grateful to the IDES Society for their enduring service, cultural leadership, and commitment to the Half Moon Bay community. So here's to more than 150 years of impact and many more to come. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to bring this proclamation over to our guests, and City Council will join in for a couple of photographs, okay? Thanks. Would anyone from IDS like to say anything at our podium? Any comments?
Well, first off, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we'd like to thank you for this honor. We really appreciate it, and we are thrilled that the community has embraced our newest part of our facility, the beautiful mural that Julie Engelman did. But we hope we love the support that we've got from the community, and we love all our events that we do, and just want to say thank you very much for this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have a presentation about our Half Moon Bay's age-friendly initiative.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a quick introduction as Sandy comes to the podium. Sandy Winter, most people know her. She is the executive director of Senior Co-Siders, and what an impact she and her organization have on our community as well. We work very closely with them on a lot of issues, and they're such a great resource, especially as we have an aging population. In 2022, they, along with the county and the city and others, spearheaded the Age-Friendly Communities Initiative through AARP, and they've shown incredible leadership throughout that process. And as kind of an extension of it, they had an intern this summer who is a candidate at Stanford University for a master's in community health and prevention, who wanted to look at our community and look at our policies as a city and how they affect an aging population. And so with gratitude to our department heads who worked with her, and I had the chance to meet with her and Sandy a couple of times, what we've got, I think, is a really, really great resource that's going to help us make better decisions going forward and make sure that we are taking care of our aging population. With that, I'll turn the time over to Sandy, who can really dig in, and hopefully I didn't say too much of what you were already going to say.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and thank you, City Council, for this opportunity to tell you about this amazing project. Josie is that better? So Josie, the student who was working on this, has now actually graduated. So this has been accepted as her master's thesis at Stanford University. Next slide, thank you. Why is it important that the city of Half Moon Bay considers the issue of aging in policies? It's because we know that the older adult population is the most rapidly increasing population in the world, and that is also true in Half Moon Bay. So about 22% of Half Moon Bay residents are age 65 and older. And older adults want to remain independent and engaged in their community, and they have so much to offer to enrich the fabric of the community. And so it's important to plan and be prepared for that, and not. One of my worst sayings is the silver tsunami. You know, that sort of implies that aging is a disaster that we can't prepare from, and that is exactly not the case. So the next slide, thank you. want to give a little bit more context about the age-friendly. Matthew's already mentioned it. This was a city-supported initiative. It was funded partly through funds from the Board of Supervisors under the leadership of David Canepa, who provided money to an organization called CAFE, which is the Center for Age-Friendly Excellence. And they have worked with many different cities in San Mateo County to try and make those cities age-friendly. And part of what that involves is gathering information from older adults about the unmet needs of seniors in their communities, using a framework of 8 different domains, which I'll show you in a moment. So the city worked with CAFE and with various nonprofits and individuals on the coast to identify these unmet needs. On behalf of the city, an application was made to AARP in February of 2022, and it was accepted in March. And we created an initial plan based on the information that we heard about the unmet needs. So that initial plan was to establish a coalition for coordination and support, because what we'd seen is that this is an unfunded mandate, and in many of the other cities in San Mateo County, they made their initial application to AARP, but then there wasn't enough infrastructure behind it to see the initiatives through. So we really felt that it was important to think carefully about how we were going to structure ourselves as a group of volunteers who don't get paid but can still be able to deliver the results. So that was one of our goals. Another initial goal was to do more around communication of the programs and services that are available to seniors on the coast. Another was to launch a coastside healthcare access advocacy project and to initiate affordable housing search and application strategy workshops. And then the last one was to design and implement an age-friendly business training and recognition plan. And of these, a number of them are being carried forward into the second round of action planning, which is for the period 2025 to 2027. So we will be doing, continuing working on healthcare access, also providing information about housing, and we've added to that transportation. We're going to be working with Crystal and then the Chamber on an age-friendly business training and recognition plan. And then also one of our new goals is to do some advocacy and awareness raising. And I would say that we are a regional organization within AARP, which is quite unusual. Usually it would just be a city. Next slide, please. So that's information about age-friendly in general. For Josie's project, she used a mixed methods study design. So first of all, she reviewed all of the public-facing documents to determine what was age-friendly that was already existing within the city's plans and documents. And then she conducted a gap analysis and made suggestions for improvements. So she interviewed key informants as well, because one of the things that came up while she was doing this is that because the city is small, a lot of the work that happens also happens through nonprofits or through the library, and so it was also important to gather their perspective. So she did a structured review of ordinances, strategic plans, the transportation framework, housing and zoning policies, council meeting records, community service program reports. She also interviewed local government officials, including Matthew at the beginning and at the end of the project, community nonprofits, and emergency service leaders. Thank you. So she did this using a framework about the 8 domains of livability, which include things like communication and information, social participation, housing, respect and social inclusion. So as she read through the policies, she had this framework in mind. And she sort of mapped out what the city's policies were relevant to that framework. And she found that the city of Half Moon Bay has some very strong strengths and gains in terms of age-friendly principles. Under each one of the headings, you can turn to the next slide, thank you. So thinking of things like community and healthcare. The community is very engaged in discussions around healthcare. There was a meeting at the Oceano in December last year, I think it was, to try and gather input from the community residents about what their thoughts were in terms of urgent treatment centers here on the coast. There's a lot of work that's been done around transportation in terms of pedestrian infrastructure like trails and public transportation with the Ride Plus program, which is supported by the city, even if it's a county-run project. You know, the 555 Kelly is an example of housing that promotes affordable senior-specific housing options. There's strong engagement with seniors about a number of issues. And the city has also been working with businesses to make sure that the environment is as walkable as possible. So, for example, the Downtown Streets program, older adults were invited to provide their input into that. In terms of civic participation and employment, there's the NET program, Job Train and Renaissance. Our communication is multi-channel, bilingual communications that doesn't only rely on technology. And then, of course, we have very effective partnerships with, for example, CERT and other volunteer leadership. So there's a lot that the city is already doing that is age-friendly, but she also identified some opportunities for improvement. So one of them I know is a very hot topic, the continued need for an increase in access to healthcare on the coast, trying to expand low-tech transportation plans, especially for emergencies, that work around continuing to make sure that housing is available, for example, through expanding ADUs, promoting home sharing, and fast-tracking approval processes, supporting nonprofits that provide social participation opportunities, expanding public-private partnerships with small businesses and providing incentives to improve ADA compliance, developing policy-supported frameworks to embed social inclusion and respect in the identity of Half Moon Bay, establishing more formal institutionalized mechanisms for older adult involvement, and supporting non-digital outreach and personal communication. And then, of course, there is the gap in coordinated evacuation and disaster response strategies that are specifically tailored for older adults. So with all of these different opportunities, she identified different coastal towns or towns in the Bay Area that have various policies and programs already in place, and I've put that on the very last slide of this presentation. But the sort of the main takeaways are in the conclusion. So to continue to sustain and expand partnerships with nonprofits and grassroots organizations, this was one of the most important components that she heard when she was interviewing the different key informant participants for this research. To continue to collaborate with other local, regional, and national entities, to engage directly with older adults to better understand their challenges and opportunities, and to partner with Age Friendly to help advance their 4 priority issues, which are business training and recognition, increased access to healthcare, increased information about housing and workshops, and continued advocacy and raising awareness. And then the very last slide has some of the different examples from age-friendly locations in California that might be, a useful resource to you as you continue to do the work. And I have circulated the age-friendly Half Moon Bay action plan for 2025 to 2027 and Josie's full thesis. And if you have any additional questions, either now or later, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Sandy, and thank you for the work of senior co-siders. Any questions or comments from council? Good. Okay, thanks again for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Next, we will have a presentation from Midcoast Community Council update.
Hi, thanks for having me over again. I'm Scott from the unincorporated region of Half Moon Bay up there on the Midcoast. And I just wanted to talk about a couple things we've mentioned in some of our past meetings. The first one, which was interesting, was we had a report from a hydrogeologist regarding the fact that seal code's slipping into the ocean. And what are the possible causes of that. So it was very interesting, and he talked about the geology and how it had formed and how rainwater can get in there and cause slippage of big portions of that cliff up there. It was very interesting, and maybe there'll be some traction on maybe trying to stop some of it or slow it down in the future. The second thing I'd like to talk about is at our last meeting, we had a listening session regarding proposed parking changes on Highway 1. And that, in particular, that means from Coronado Street in El Granada at the light at Surfers Beach to Capistrano, and that's the light at the harbor. And what it means is Caltrans has proposed removing parking at Surfers Beach and putting a bike lane in there. And I mean, that's great. I mean, I think it's really important to have safe biking, but maybe there's better places for that. And there is also going to be a new parking. There is a new proposed parking lot on the Burnham Strip. So during that listening session, we received a lot of feedback from the people that lived in the neighborhood, and we got a lot of emails to the MCC website regarding some concerns about the removal of parking and the extra parking lot. So with the community feedback, we're going to generate a letter of concern, and we're also inviting all the people that are involved, all the stakeholders, to weigh in on the issue. So at our next meeting, if you're interested, it's going to be all about parking on the coast. And so with respect to the bike lane, we want to make sure that they're doing the right thing in the future, and especially with Route 1 and parking, because if you've driven by there, you can see that Route 1 may need to be changed from where it is currently. You know, they might move it farther inland. We don't know what Caltrans' long-term plan is for 1, so maybe the proposed bike lane isn't a great idea in the short term. And maybe the bike lane could be moved to Alhambra or Obispo inland and not affect parking there. So those are just ideas on what the plan could be, and hopefully they make the best decisions on parking on 1.
I have a question,
And
Robert.
that's my message for today. You guys have any questions? Or?
Thanks, Scott. I think we have a question for you.
Okay.
Scott, can you tell me what the geologist came up with in terms of how much of the slippage at Seal Cove is man-made, potentially man-made, and how much of it is just natural rock formation and erosion?
So what I took away from the geologist's presentation is that this is a naturally occurring process, and it's going to happen anyway with rainwater coming down. Now, if there's excessive funneling of rainwater into that area, it will increase the slippage of some of the layers because of the way that it uplifted out of the ocean. It's just the layers are sliding down. So if stormwater runs right in there, it's going to make it go quicker. If there's a broken sewer pipe in there, it could make it go quicker. But he hesitated to draw any kind of conclusions like that. So, but like I said, I don't know the answer to that, and he didn't point to anything specifically. He just told us why it happens.
Great, thank you. I
got
appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you. This presentation
Thanks again, Scott.
is on our website too, if you need to look at it.
Appreciate it, Scott. Okay. Oops. That's it for proclamations and presentations. I don't have any announcements of community activity, community service. Quick report out from council from our recent closed session meetings, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Council did meet in closed session earlier this evening to discuss 3 matters of existing litigation. The first matter is City of Half Moon Bay versus Granada CSD and Montera Water and Sanitary District. Nothing to report out. In addition, the Council discussed the case of Gearing versus City of Half Moon Bay. Nothing to report out. And finally, the Council discussed the matter of City of Half Moon Bay versus Gearing. Again, nothing to report out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, city manager's reports. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a series of announcements and updates from staff. There are several, but they will be very quick. So we'll start with Brian Lopez, a senior analyst with our Administrative Services Department. Brian.
Good evening. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of our .gov transition. As you may or may not be familiar with, there is a assembly bill that requires us to transition to .gov. It's to allow for better overall dissemination of information and provide some assurance to the public that they are truly on a government website and not some other form of website. Many agencies are already in the process of making this transition, and you'll see that throughout the Bay Area. Obviously, the sooner we do it, the better, because it is allowing us to get ahead of the rush as we get closer and closer to the deadline. We also are starting this transition. We've actually started the transition with our website, which is actually now live. You can actually go to halfmoonbay.gov directly if you wanted to. The wonderful thing about the way we've done this is that anyone that already has links that go to the old website are just being redirected. So as far as the public is concerned, it's very transparent. They'll transition right on over without any hiccups or anything else. And so ultimately, there's no immediate action that the public needs to take through this transition. We're about to begin transitioning our email accounts as well as other third-party internal accounts. And so this will be a little bit more apparent to the public as we start to email the public, and as they email us, we'll start having outreach that will communicate the change and asking them to go ahead and start updating their links, updating their address books, and so on. Saying that, despite this outreach, none of the old links or emails or anything else are going to go away anytime soon. So if someone, even a year from now, decides to go ahead and email on accident or what have you, an old email address, it'll still be redirected to the correct user. So that way they'll still have their email responded to. And then that reply will come, of course, from halfmoonbay.gov. And then lastly, I did want to bring up the reason why we chose halfmoonbay.gov. With the Assembly bill, obviously the whole Assembly bill is about clarity to make sure that the public knows that they really are talking to the city or getting information from the city. And so, as is typical with most of the agencies, and in line with that, we went with halfmoonbay.gov because we felt it was the clearest overall and also the briefest. We wanted to make it easy for people to go ahead and just type in that address or that email address without having something really long that might be forgotten or have someone accidentally type in the wrong address and end up on some other site. Any questions?
Well, first, thanks for the presentation. And yeah, any questions? Paul?
Thank you. So I'm part of that 22% we saw a little earlier this evening. How long will the redirect happen? Forever, or is it eventually no more redirect? We have to start using actual emails and or websites?
Great question. There is actually no requirement to end that redirect. We could have it, as far as I know, for all perpetuity. As far as the Assembly bill is concerned, by 2029, January 1st, 2029, we just have to have a redirect in place if someone does use an old one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but there is a cost for us to maintain the other URLs.
There is.
And so that's really the limit. It's not a huge cost, but we could quantify that for council in the future, if you'd like.
Because we're going to use our existing business cards.
Yeah, we're going to work our way through all that. We're not going to buy all new stuff. We'll work our way through it. And as we have to order new business cards, letterhead, those types of things, we'll update it there. And then you're going to want some time for
Yeah,
folks.
And I should probably add as well, our intention is to gradually increase the notification to the public. So, right now, if someone uses an old link, they're just going to be redirected. They're none the wiser at this point. However, after today, we'll begin putting a banner on our website. Later on, it may be maybe a pop-up if someone uses the wrong link that'll say, hey, just update your links. We've got this new website. And then we may also have something with our email as well. So if someone emails the wrong email address, they could get an auto reply that says, hey, just so you know, we've just changed. Please update your contacts. But letting them know that they're being redirected to the right person. And then at some point in the future, we may want to look at ending our old domain. But as Matthew said, the cost is pretty minimal. We're talking a couple $100s for years. So it's pretty minimal.
I have a question. On the, when we redirect, can we, and it's going to pop up, can we have a little explanation to people that, because of AB 1637, it's one of the new things that is happening and they want us to do this? Can we have a little explanation so they see it, or instead of just like saying, you need to go here?
Yes, I believe we can have a little blurb that will explain that.
Thanks again for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks, Brian.
Next presentation.
Next, we have Helen Walter from Public Works, who is here to talk about a new program.
Good evening. I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat, so excuse me. I am here this evening to present quickly, just a brief summary of a potential reusable foodware pilot that is happening in town. First, excuse me, a little bit of a background. In 2024, 30 restaurants in the city of Petaluma swapped their single-use cups for to-go reusable cups that could be returned anywhere in town via a network of over 60 local return bins. This was a first-in-the-nation program of mass reusables. No deposits were required, no penalties or sign-ups required. The takeaways from that program were there were an environmental break-even point, meaning that enough of the program's cups were successfully returned for the reuse system to produce environmental benefits. But additional benefits were the restaurants saved money as they did not need to repeatedly purchase new to-go ware. It was a win-win, but expensive to put in place. So when DoorDash reached out about a potential pilot in town around reusables, I was intrigued. Since then, staff has been in discussion with DoorDash for a few months, and we expect a proposal any day, so we did want to update council. The goal of this pilot will be like Petaluma, although it will be done through DoorDash, so only available to those who utilize the service. I am, for one, not a user, but I know many people that are. We are also working with the county, as DoorDash is also interested in our mid-coast community, so it's a cross-jurisdictional effort. DoorDash and they have hired a vendor as we're dealing with the Republic trash issues. We are very conscious of these pickup issues. And at this point, the proposal is that their bins would be serviced twice a week through the pilot period. We also want to ensure that our local merchants are well aware of the program and to meet any of their concerns. So we have an intern starting this week and next week, reaching out to our 18 local merchants to ensure that we are aware of their stances on the pilot prior to implementation. There are 17, and we found those because of the app, the merchants that are on the app. I had help from the chamber. I'm also working with the chamber And she's very familiar with the merchants that are on the app. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from council on that?
So is this something that's going to come back to us as a proposal, or how is this? Because I have a lot of other questions, but really I'm not going to ask them until it comes back.
Right. To be honest, it's still baking quite a bit, and we need to see the actual proposal come in from DoorDash. And I would guess that we would probably want to bring it back to you, but I'm not 100% sure. We really need to see the proposal from DoorDash, but we wanted to flag that it's baking and in the pipeline, and it would actually be the first in the nation DoorDash. Like, they're looking for an isolated type of community where they can check it out and see what they can do.
Great. It's intriguing. Look forward to you coming back when we hear more. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Next up is Irma Acosta from the City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Community. Irma Acosta, Economic and Community Vitality Division. And I am here this evening as a follow-up to a previous council meeting on an update on the city's rental programs. And as councils expressed interest in supporting tenants beyond the scope of the rental programs. So I wanted to share an update on an upcoming initiative. City staff have organized a tenant workshop that'll take place Wednesday, July 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. and it'll take place at Seekers High School. And the purpose of this workshop is to provide tenants with information about their rights, available resources, and support services within the community. The event will feature presentations for partners such as Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County, Project Sentinel, and HIP Housing. There will be interpretation services available in both Spanish and Chinese. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me at rent@hmbcity.com or by calling 650-750-2016. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Irma. Any questions from council?
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Irma. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Irma. And this really came about directly from feedback we received when the rent stabilization and rent registry programs came forward, and the feedback we received from you all. So we think this is an important step in addressing these needs in other ways as well. We have two more updates that I will take. The first, of course, is the big smelly elephant in the room, which is our trash delays. And hopefully the community has tuned in to communications and is finding ways to get updates. We're doing a lot of work to provide a lot of updates. I know Republic is reaching out to customers, but we thought this would be a good platform to, again, get the community updated, make sure you know what's happening. So first and foremost, I think everybody knows that there are some labor issues in other areas that have affected our community because picketing has been brought here by the Teamsters Union representing employees of Republic and other communities. Our local workers for Republic who are part of the Teamsters Union are in solidarity, and so beginning last Tuesday ceased operations until those issues are resolved. We have received great communication from Republic as a city. I was looking, and my first contact from Republic leadership, the general manager, was around 7 a.m. last Tuesday morning. So probably within a few minutes of her finding out about this strike. And we've been talking very regularly since. They've taken a lot of our thoughts and our ideas under advisement. And the city is also coordinating with other affected cities in San Mateo County to make sure we're not leaving any stone unturned, that we're all pressing on the same mitigations and opportunities within each city. So the strike is ongoing. There is no estimate to the end. And so our efforts are really around how do we support our community in the meantime. As people have probably seen since the end of last week, there have been sporadic services, pickup services provided by Republic. They are bringing in resources from other places and from their management team where possible. Obviously, the work that is performed by our trash haulers is specialized. It requires special licensing and training, and is not just freely available out in the marketplace. And so they've had to work hard to bring in resources, and we're grateful for the work that they've done. I think most of our community has received some level of service since the strike began, and that continues to ramp up. So hopefully the impacts are reduced over the next week. Additionally, there are, if you want to jump to the next slide, Colleen, there are dumpsters that are publicly available to the community, two specifically for residential customers only. One is at the end of Bev Cunha Road, or if you look on the map, it's 1000 North Cabrillo Highway. It's the sewer treatment plant near the Casa del Mar neighborhood. And we placed it there so that residents in the north end of our community have a place to go nearby. There's also a dumpster at 110 Higgins Canyon Road at the city's train depot site. And those are both for residential customers. The idea is your trash can's full, you've got more garbage, it's a place to bring it until the trash gets picked up. We really ask for good neighbor behavior, that people really focus on actual needs. I will say there's been abuses, and we're working with the Republic to try to prevent that as much as possible. Additionally, there is a dumpster behind City Hall at the corner of Kelly and Johnston Avenue, and that is for our downtown residents that have been impacted, as well as our local businesses who also are dealing with this challenge. We just want to make sure the community knows that we're working very hard with the Republic to leverage every resource possible to support you during this time. We know this is a huge inconvenience, and what we want to prevent is a local health emergency. We actually had the Mosquito and Vector Control District come out and do some checks over the last couple of days to ensure we're not having issues with rodents and other vermin. And they'll be keeping an eye on things and employing measures if needed. But I think we've done a good job as a community, both the city and Republic, but especially the residents, in kind of doing what we can. One thing that we really want to recommend, which we recommend anyways, but you really should wash your recyclables before you put them out. And if they're clean and have to sit for a little while, they're much less likely to attract pests and unwanted visitors. Republic has a special site. If it's on the previous slide, yeah. We created a bit.ly link. So if you go to this link, or if you just search Republic Services Half Moon Bay, they are trying to provide regular updates. You can go there. And if you go to our website, we are updating it multiple times per day so that residents can know what's actually happening and not rely on the speculation that sometimes happens on Nextdoor. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, and we're all hoping that there will be a swift end to this issue. Any questions from council on that item?
Yeah, Matthew, I've been feeding you a lot of photos and kind of keeping you, where the trash is and what kind is going in there. And as you saw in the photos, there's a lot of beds, suitcases, cement, plywood. And as I was driving there, I didn't want to say who I was or anything, but then they gave me that look like, real quick, let's dump this out. And it was contractors. There's no signs on any of these cans that basically say we're in kind of an emergency here. It's 2 trash bags per household. Don't dump, structural contracting stuff. There's nothing. So that I would think we should be doing from now on for anything like this. So that basically, it's kind of a shaming thing. If you're reading the sign and I'm going to go dump it, it's like, what are you doing? Then I could say something. But when there's no sign, there's nothing. And I wouldn't really put somebody on the spot like that. But I think people would see that. You're just taking up more space so that somebody can't dump. The other thing is we have restaurants. Are we taking care of the restaurants and the businesses? We're good on that. Now, I do know Betsy called me and she said that she had to have it dumped and it was like $500 for somebody to do that on her own. Is that something that you can recoup the cost from Republic, or is that just something the restaurant just has to absorb?
I can't speak to anybody's individual situations, but I appreciate you bringing up that point. One of the other things that, of course, we're working with Republic on is ensuring that customers are either refunded or their bills are adjusted to reflect the fact that services have been missed. The focus right now, of course, is on the acute issues, but that is one of the first items we brought up, and they're aware that we'll be pressing. Our contract with them gives us some leverage financially to pursue those types of remedies, and we will be doing that on behalf of the residents as this gets resolved.
And there's another thing I want to point out is I went to Poplar Street and I could see, and I was just checking. I was like Mr. Trash Man checking on stuff. And on Poplar Street, I noticed that was a lot of personal items, and there was no real sign, hey, this is just for beach trash. There was suitcases and all kinds of stuff going on in there. And then the Redondo Beach, same thing there as I was weeding through stuff. It's just basically they know it, and the Redondo Beach and Ocean Colony has brought this forward. I wasn't diving in there because of that, but I knew I already had been at a couple meetings. And sure enough, there was a lot of like personal stuff in there. It was ridiculous what I saw. There's no signs, and then I don't really like what I saw, you know, when it says F ice, you know, and it's spray painted. I think we need to be, and I know as a business owner, when my trash can wheels are bad and it's been graffitied or the lid doesn't close, I just call. We don't use Republic, we use Recology, and we have a recycle bin and we have normal trash, so we do our due diligence on that. But if it's worn out or painted, they actually come out and exchange it. So I'd like to see if we can do that so we're not sitting there having graffiti all the time.
The bins at Redondo Beach Road are private. Those are not city bins, but the property owner has been notified of that issue.
Yes.
Were you going to talk about some costs you've had to date and potentially what we would be looking at either through the franchise agreement or some other methods to recover costs? And then also, has this affected our city staff from doing any work? I know we have represented a group on staff. I didn't know if they were affected by this at all or not.
Yes, thanks for those questions. We do have staff that are represented not by the Teamsters, but by a different union, and as expected, unions work in solidarity. We were in contact with their represented union, and they advised us not to pursue putting those staff in a position of crossing the picket line. So our management staff and our executives have taken up some of the work that the city's done, including emptying some of the public trash cans that Republic would normally empty, and a couple other areas that we've worked. We do have special codes that we're tracking all these costs. I can't really give estimates at this point because a lot of it is staff hours. We are paying for the dumpster behind City Hall through a private contractor, and obviously that will recoup. We have what's called liquidated damages within our contract, which allows us to fine them for, there's a formula. I can't give you exact numbers, but it's significant. And we've already put them on notice legally that we'll be pursuing those when this gets resolved. And again, that's part of working with the community to make sure the community is recouped for these costs. So, yeah, it definitely has taken a lot of my time and some of our senior leadership, and that's part of the reason we're tracking it because, you know, it's obviously not our local Republic team's fault that this is happening, but Republic as a business is contracted to provide services, and they're not, and we shouldn't have to be spending our time working on these issues. So. We will be pursuing those liquidated damages when all is said and done.
So the public's been told trash is the highest priority right now. Recyclable, organics comes later. If anybody, now I've heard some neighborhoods have been getting picked up and some haven't, and I don't know if that's true or not, but.
That is correct. That's that sporadic service I was mentioning. Right. Over the weekend, there was most of the businesses had their dumpsters emptied and some of their cans. And then over the last 2 days, there's been residential service happening, mostly trash. There has been some recycling pickup as well.
So do we want our residential customers to put out their trash cans and leave them out in the street? Is that what we want?
We do.
So we want everybody to do that. Will the trash companies come, or whoever's performing the work, come on their scheduled day or just whenever?
At this point, they can't promise when they'll come. They're trying to prioritize based on need. We're, as staff, looking at the neighborhoods, seeing where some of the bigger issues are and redirecting there. The goal is to work our way through and hit every neighborhood once before the second round comes. But whether or not that's on the actual pickup day is very open. And so right now, all the information we're putting out is put your trash cans out, leave them out. If they're overflowing, please take those and get them dumped in one of the dumpsters. And we'll let people know by the end of this week. We asked people to pull them back during the weekend because Republic said we will not be picking up residential over the weekend. Put them back out Sunday night, Monday morning. Hopefully we won't get to that point, but again, that's why we're really recommending people track our channels. We're on Nextdoor, Facebook, Instagram, our city website, and Republic is putting information out to try to just make sure people aren't missed. And so we're erring on the side of caution. Leave them out for now.
And it's just trash only. Don't put out your recyclables. Don't.
No, put out all three.
All
Like
three?
I said, they've hit some of the recycling as well.
So they are doing
The priority is trash for, I think obvious reasons. But as they can, they'll pick up other items as well. So just leave them all out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Last one, on the franchise agreement, it was brought forward to me by somebody that emailed me. And it's talking about, and I can't remember verbatim what it was, but basically, it's if they walk away, don't do the job, we can go borrow their equipment and run it. Can we clean that language up? Because it's kind of ridiculous. Because none of us here can, operate those machineries.
Yeah, I don't think we would change that language, but, we'll obviously look at all of this under a new lens. I think that language was put in there contemplating a different scenario where there would be other available resources. I don't think it contemplated a nationwide strike by the largest trash hauler in the country where all the resources are being strained all at once. We'll never have the staff or the local resources, I think, to take the garbage trucks. And I got really excited at first when I saw that language. It's like, let's go. I'll drive a garbage truck. But as you mentioned, it's training, it's certifications, it's licensing. Under certain circumstances, that is important language to allow us to keep services going. I don't think it's very helpful in a practical way under this situation.
We have one more announcement to make.
Yeah, I just want everybody to clap their hands and welcome Matthew Chittister. He and his family just moved to the coast.
Moved back. We're home. Thank you. To the Mid-Coast. You're my representative. Yeah. Well, I won't share that we're still being well serviced by Recology where we live. So I have one more actual item as well, but thank you. We're excited to be here. It's going to be fun to have my kids go to the schools that I grew up, attending. And it's really fun actually to see my children already very engaged in the community and doing things. So had lunch with my eldest daughter yesterday at San Benito House on a whim. Man, that's a dream come true. So thank you. On another high note, we have one more announcement that wasn't in the agenda because it's just coming together very quickly. We're very excited to announce the grand opening of Carter Park. We won't get into the history here, but this has been a very, very long time coming. Through the generous support of the state, Mark Berman, as our assembly member, was able to obtain funding for us. And, there's been a lot of challenges, but we are really excited to share this with the community. It is a spectacular facility. It is world-class. I don't say that lightly. It is a world-class facility that this city council has brought to the community, and we're really excited to grand open it. So please join us on August 2nd at 1 p.m. We'll have some music, we'll have some entertainment. We'll have some of the speeches that everybody loves so much. We'll cut the ribbon, and I think this is a new chapter in our community. Right on the heels of it, the following week, we'll see the Shakespeare company here on the coast start their new production of The Taming of the Shrew. And then we'll have our Summer's End Music Festival, and we really think this is going to liven up the downtown even more and bring some new and exciting opportunities to our community. Keep tabs on our social media and our website as this comes together for more details, but we're really excited to invite the community out in just a couple of weeks to celebrate this amazing new facility. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Okay. It is time for public forum. Thank you for those of you who are here to speak. Just to remind everyone, during public forum, you can speak about any topic you want that's not on our agenda. Okay, so any of the agendized items, wait till that item comes up, and we have public comment per each agendized item. But if you want to talk about anything else, this is the time. Each person, just to remind everyone, you have 3 minutes to speak. And there will be a loud, obnoxious tone after 1 and 2.5 minutes to remind you that you only have 30 seconds left. And then there'll be a final tone, and that's it, okay? So you've been warned, and we appreciate those who've come this evening to speak.
It still needs to be germane to city business, right? I think we don't want to take up the public's time with something that's not really part of the city's business.
Well, that might be your opinion, but then again, part of the joy and of democracy, what one person thinks is germane and another, I don't want to make those judgments in the moment, but yeah, within reason. Okay, so our first speaker this evening is Valerie Dubois.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and City staff. My name is Valerie Dubois. I'm a resident of Moss Beach. I'm also on the board of Sea Hugger and Beach Break Entertainment. And I'm here tonight to introduce you to the Plastic-Free Coastside Initiative that started earlier this year and operates underneath Sea Hugger. And also to voice my support for continued investigation of the renewable pilot that was just mentioned earlier, as well as give you some insight on some potential community support for that we've learned. Plastic-Free Coastside is a group of passionate and very concerned coastsiders that came together as a result of a panel discussion after the Plastic People movie at the Beach Break Film Festival last December. The film itself investigates our kind of collective addiction to plastic, and also talked about how microplastics are found in all of our bodies, our brains, our blood, even placentas of new mothers. It also showcased, though, how several towns have created a community-led plastic-free initiative with a goal of helping both businesses and individuals to help navigate what's sometimes a complex path to reducing their plastic usage. And so during the panel discussion, somebody from the audience raised their hands and they said, well, why can't we do that here? You know, we live right by the ocean. We know there's a lot of people here that are concerned about it. And so we kind of collectively looked at each other and said, yeah, let's do this. And about 10 people from the audience signed up, and we've been meeting to try to put together a kind of an action plan. The first thing that we did was we created an informal survey to understand how the coastside really feels about plastics. And we distributed it via Nextdoor, Coastside Buzz, and the Half Moon Bay Review. From that, we learned that about a little over a third of respondents actually use disposable plastic foodware more than once a week. Sometimes up to 7 times a week. And about another third of people use it 2 to 3 times a month. And by far the most plastic consumed is, when we're talking about foodware, is from restaurant takeout, not surprisingly, followed by coffee shops and then grocery stores. Just over 70% actually said they would avoid shopping at a particular restaurant or store if a nearby equivalent establishment offered plastic-free options. A whopping 95% were concerned about the plastic's effect on the environment, and another 70% were very concerned or moderately concerned about plastics on their health. Respondents reflected that they're very frustrated with the lack of plastic-free options here at local establishments, and about 90% indicated that they support local efforts, which is why I wanted to come to here today. Just over 17% specifically called out having more initiatives for reusable takeout containers as one of their top concerns. So our high-level takeaway is that the community really does care deeply about the plastic problems, and they want it to be easier to use single-use plastics. And we really would love to work with you on any initiative around that going forward. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Valerie. Our next speaker is Juliet Applewhite.
Hello, Mayor, City Council, staff, thank you. Ditto, basically your time is really valuable. I'm working with Val, and it's a pretty exciting group of impressive, powerful women, and I'm good at taking notes. But I think that the opportunity for the city and potentially with DoorDash or some other organization, but to support our restaurants and to support our community and try to help eliminate plastics. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's pretty profound and powerful. It's called Plastic People. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Our next speaker is Susan Quaglietti.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, and City Attorney. My name is Susan Quaglietti, and I live downstream of Rocket Farms Nursery on the Pullman Watercourse. I'm here tonight to represent myself and other concerned neighbors who live on the Pullman Watercourse because of the unmanaged water flow from Rocket Farms. Rocket Farms has transformed Pullman Ditch into a conduit for polluted floodwaters, sidestepped the SAM treatment plan, and failed to submit a required report of waste discharge under Water Code 13260. We are disappointed and troubled that Half Moon Bay has continuously ignored this harmful practice. Rocket Farms has been discharging storm water and polluted floodwaters into the Pullman Watercourse since the farm changed ownership. The previous owners contained their processed water responsibility by sending it back to the SAM waste treatment plant, but Rocket Farms ownership has chosen negligence. Rocket Farms is releasing toxic runoff that then permeates onto private land. Any permit is not authorization to unload toxic runoff onto private land and into the ocean. Also, the city engineer's plan to form a special stormwater district won't neutralize the contamination. Why should the ditch owners foot any bill for polluters' violations? Under Municipal Code 13.10.020, any illicit discharge to our ditches or creeks is strictly forbidden. Yet, we've seen nothing but diplomatic overtures while our properties flood and with toxic wastewater. That inaction isn't compromise, it's abdication of duty. If residents suffer toxic pollution, they'll expect the city and ultimately the city attorney to step in. We are requesting that you issue immediate violation notices under the Municipal Code 13.10.020. Compel Rocket Farms to file the missing Water Code section 13260 discharge report. Invoke cleanup abatement powers under Water Code section 13304, and also review whether they have a coastal development permit. It's time for the city to pay attention to taxpayers and provide us protection. Furthermore, the city and state code demand it. Thank you for taking time to really consider these very important neighborhood issues. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Susan. Let's see, I think we have some speakers online too, so I'm just going to switch over to a few of those folks. David Rokoski.
Good evening. I'm actually Joanne Roklaski. It just shows up as
Sorry,
David.
thank you, Joanne.
And I'm a member of COSIDE Faith in Action. With the federal budget's unprecedented funding for ICE and the raids and ongoing military occupation in Los Angeles, we know that our immigrant neighbors on the coast side are at increasing risk and are justifiably frightened. In fact, you've talked at the city council meetings about people not showing up, and that perhaps that was due to fear. So somebody who thinks they see ICE calls their friends, posts the sighting on social media, and then the fear and the alarm quickly spread throughout the community. San Mateo County contracts with Faith in Action Bay Area to staff 24-hour hotline. All calls are answered by a native Spanish speaker with access to several other languages. When the hotline is called, nearby volunteers are dispatched to the site and verify whether or not ICE is actually present. If ICE is present, Faith in Action immediately contacts an attorney for deportation defense, an immigration attorney. If not, they convey that it was a false alarm. And either way, they post this verified information on Facebook and Instagram. For example, today there were 2 postings. One was a false alarm in South San Francisco. The second was a confirmed ICE arrest in San Bruno. So the San Mateo hotline number is on all the county-specific red Know Your Rights cards, as well as on yellow cards and posters. All of these are available at no cost, and I will happily facilitate the city being able to get these materials. I know that you, as members of the Half Moon Bay City Council and city staff, support our at-risk neighbors. Tonight, I'm asking you to actively assist in distributing hotline information by posting the information on the city website, by putting up the yellow posters. And I know that apparently it's against city policy to put posters up, but I think this should be an exception. And by having red and yellow cards readily available on entry. And I'm also asking you to use city resources to encourage local businesses and organizations to do the same. Many of us have distributed cards locally, but it's slow. And some merchants are reluctant to post information and may need some coaxing. For those who do, supplies dwindle.
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
I urge you to do so immediately. I didn't hear the alarm. My apology.
That's okay. Thank you very much, though, for contributing this evening. Our next speaker is Norm Picker. Oh, there he goes.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Norm Picker. I live in Arleta Park. There's a ditch at the end of Myrtle Street I want to talk about briefly. I've been in communication with Jonathan Wu from Public Works. I don't think he's with the city anymore. But so I forwarded an email to Public Works general email. I didn't get a response. So what's going on? There was significant erosion a couple of years ago, you might recall, at where the Myrtle Street ditch, which goes from Railroad across the bluffs to the coastal trail and then dumps into the down to the beach. And there's a pipe that goes underneath the coastal trail. The coastal trail had to be rerouted a couple of years ago. You guys did a great job with that, the city, rerouting the coastal trail, bringing it in, putting a nice pipe and pouring concrete, making like this bulkhead. All that was wonderful. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure when the construction work was happening, it's when it was real wet out there, and now there's like some like little tributaries that were caused, I think, by deep tire tracks. I'm pretty sure that's what caused it. And one of them goes right to the ditch, right where you did all that concrete work, and it's eroding it really pretty badly. And I took some great pictures in late March, when there wasn't much growth out there, and I can forward them to you. That's what I shared with Jonathan Mr. Wu. But I'm pretty sure that's what's causing it. It's like a bunch of tire tracks are carved in there, and now water is like accumulating in them, and they're like little streams that are heading to the ditch and eroding right next to where you did all that expensive work with the concrete. And it's going to fail. If that keeps going, it's going to fail. And then when there's a storm, it's going to go right around the concrete that you did and wash out again at the coastal trail. So I wanted to raise that to your attention and ask that you guys encourage Public Works to do something. While it's dry and hard right now, you could go out there and drive out there and bring base rock and dirt and soil and things like that and grade it and fill those ditches that were caused by, I think, by the tires, and bring it back to its natural state where water will just percolate through that dirt naturally and all throughout that area. The tracks run all the way from like Poplar Street beach access to the Myrtle Street ditch. Some of them are not that far, and there's like maybe 4 of these tracks. One I said in particular, like I said, that heads right to the ditch. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you for putting us on notice, and please resend your email and photos. Thank you. Our next speaker is Evelyn De Souza.
Good evening, council members and staff. I'm here to urge the city to prioritize stronger enforcement of traffic safety laws, particularly at stop signs. Just a few weeks ago, I was standing at the corner of Kelly and Main Street when I witnessed an elderly person nearly get hit by a car that blew through the stop sign. A sheriff's deputy nearby saw it happen, but when I asked if they could do anything, their response stunned me when they said, "Unfortunately not." This isn't an isolated incident. I've seen many cars blow through stop signs, even when sheriffs are present. I've seen illegal fireworks go off on Main Street repeatedly, and still no citations. To be clear, I'm not asking for aggressive ticketing, but for targeted enforcement where real safety risks exist. And by the way, these are also missed revenue opportunities that could support community services. I do understand that law enforcement can't be everywhere, but it feels like we're slipping and people are starting to notice. So please, let's not wait until somebody gets seriously hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Okay. Moving back to here inside the room, our next speaker is Olivia Perez.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Olivia Perez Foster, and I am addressing you today over the 555 Kelly Housing Project. As a proud Half Moon Bay resident who was born and raised in this town, I see the growing need for affordable housing here in Half Moon Bay every day. I have seen how farm workers have time and time again been taken advantage of, underpaid, overworked, and under-resourced. As tech continues to flourish in the Bay Area, the farm workers are overlooked and many times become invisible. I was lucky enough to have grown to appreciate the tireless work of the farm workers in such a culturally rich community. Through hearing their stories, I have had the privilege to see that it is their work that's really the backbone of not only our town, but the whole country. As housing becomes more scarce and prices are rising, farm workers' livelihoods are threatened. Without a backbone, our town would not be the same, and this is a direct call for our town to stand up to protect those who protect us. I have also had the privilege of going to University of California, Irvine, and I am about to become a third-year criminology, law and society, and social ecology major. It is with this privilege that I'm able to learn more about how the farm worker communities have been historically oppressed and neglected. Through my studies in urban planning, I have found that nearly 1 in 5 non-citizen migrant workers reside in a mobile home, trailer, or other more likely temporary quarters. Living in these temporary quarters or small confined spaces is the last place farm workers want to go once they're done with their hard work on the farm. Their housing conditions also contribute to physical exposures, including chemicals, allergens, pests, and moisture, which lead to negative respiratory, dermatologic, and neurobehavioral outcomes, as well as social exposures such as crowding and noise, which have been linked to negative behavioral and mental health outcomes. These negative housing outcomes must be considered and taken seriously, especially as it relates to the farm worker community here in Half Moon Bay. Farm workers deserve a space of their own where they can feel safe and comfortable and where their health is prioritized. With the political tensions rising in this country as we witness the intensification of the Trump administration's attacks on migrants across California, we see increased militarization and policing, especially in workplaces and areas with large migrant populations. It was only a couple years ago when a mass shooting targeting farm workers occurred in our very own community. As fear raced through the town, it was the farm workers who faced the brunt of the violence, and the violence did not stop at the shooting. In fact, the shooting just shed light on how severe the living conditions of the farm workers are. As City Council of Half Moon Bay, you have the power to show your support for not only the senior farm workers, but show support for the community as a whole. The political state of the U.S. is threatening migrant workers nationwide, and providing senior farm workers with proper, stable housing should be bare minimum. ALAS has stepped up to support the survivors and farm worker community, and it is Half Moon Bay's responsibility to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Our next speaker is Allison Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Allison Williams. I'm a graduate of the London College of Garden Design. I'm a certified Royal Horticultural Society member. I'm a certified California Native Landscaper and a wildfire resilient landscape designer, as well as being trained in greening public spaces for the well-being of the community. I only share these qualifications to explain the knowledge behind my request. In the past, I have worked with the city to revamp the bioswales in front of the library a couple of years ago. At the present, I'm helping to design a garden space for the sister cities of Half Moon Bay at the library, who will be celebrating their 30th anniversary of the Sister City program. And 2 students right now are in Japan enjoying their trip. So it kind of shows that I am deeply engaged in public gardens and public spaces for the community. I really want to encourage the city to invest more in beautifying our area through thoughtful landscaping, well-kept green areas, proper tree care, and clean public spaces. It'll look cared for, it will help draw visitors in, it will support local visitors, and it'll build civic pride. As we improve these areas, I also strongly urge the city to move away from using pesticides in landscaping and tree care. Research, including from the Parkinson's Institute, has shown a clear link between pesticide exposure and increased risk of Parkinson's disease. These chemicals pose serious long-term health risks and should be avoided at all costs. I also would like to say that I know we are amongst farm workers here. I'd really like to encourage regenerative farming, which I have a lot of experience in as well. There are far more safer, effective alternatives that keep our landscape and our community alive and well. I would like to really encourage the city to make us a more beautiful and welcoming community, and hopefully put us on the forefront for people to come and visit and say, this is how you can do it. Thank you. Yeah.
How can you be reached?
How can I be reached?
Yes.
I'm happy to, I can give you my email. Would you like that now?
Yes.
Okay, it's Allison Shadwell Williams, so A-L-I. I can give you my card if you'd like.
Maybe the card.
Okay, I'll bring you my card. Okay.
Thank you, Allison. Appreciate your coming this evening.
Any other questions?
Allison, I appreciate you coming down, and we've been talking for a couple months now, and I really want to start doing what we're talking about, and I think everybody's on board here, and I'm grateful that you got to talk to Maz, because we talked about pesticides and things like that.
Yeah.
So I want you to embrace the city and what we've talked, and let's get something going and get it moving. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Rocio Avila Garcia.
So Rocio is going to give her public comment, and then I'm going to provide you all with a side translation.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, alcalde y miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Rocío Ávila y soy un líder comunitario. Hoy estoy aquí ante ustedes abogando por todas las personas de esta comunidad de la costa, por la situación que estamos pasando y que están pasando otros lugares, que esperemos en Dios que no pase aquí. Quiero pedirle a las personas que tienen trabajando a personas sin un permiso de trabajo vigente, que no colaboren con las agencias federales, que si ellos llegan a saber que habrá una redada o algún caso donde ICE estará involucrada, que protejan a sus trabajadores, que no los arriesguen, que tengan compasión, que no sean parte de los atropellos que están pasando y separando familias. Las personas solo están trabajando sin hacer daño a nadie. Quiero pedirle a la ciudad y al concilio que en algún momento, que espero que no pase, que no nos dejen solos, que respalden a las personas que pasen una situación difícil. Porque somos personas que trabajamos, que contribuimos a esta comunidad y al país. Y quiero decirle que gracias y que sé que contamos con ustedes y que no nos dejarán solos.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Rocio Avila. I'm a community member. I'm here before you today advocating for all of those people in the community on the coast for this situation that is going on, not only here, but in other places. And we hope to God that it actually doesn't ever happen here. I want to ask for all of those people working without a authorized work permit. Don't collaborate with any kind of federal agencies. If they come to understand, if you come to understand that there might be these ICE raids or ICE is involved in any way, protect the workers. Don't put them at risk, and please have compassion. Don't be part of this freight train that will run everything over when separating the families. People here are only here to work without hurting anyone else. I want to ask the city and the council that if in any moment, I hope that this doesn't happen, but don't abandon us. Support those people that might be going through a difficult situation, because we're hard workers. We contribute to this community and to this country. And I just want to say thank you very much. I know that we can count on you, and you will not abandon us.
Thank you, Rocio. Whoops, our next speaker is Graham Brown.
Council members and mayor, I'm afraid that I did not file the paperwork properly and wanted to speak with regards to the trash agenda item, and I did not request that properly, so I do not have the ability to speak now. Thank you.
No, I think, Graham, you're actually okay. This is for non-agendized items or stuff that was
I see.
not a regular item, so you're good.
So, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Matthew, to your point earlier, let me back up. First, I want to thank the city workers, the staff, for all of the hard work you guys have done with Republic Services in order to provide residents of this city options during this time of crisis, so to speak. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. And I know my community appreciates it as well, the condo complex that I live in. I have already taken loads of trash to the pickup sites that have been deployed by Republic Services. I can verify Mr. Johnson's observations with regards to inappropriate things being trashed. I've observed it as well in the form of gym equipment. I don't know why. Matthew, to your point about sporadic pickups, my community in particular has not received a single pickup in 2 weeks. Our last pickup was at the start of this month on the 1st of July, as far as I am aware. I think that if this crisis goes on much longer, if Republic Services and the Teamsters Union cannot come to an agreement, this city will need additional options. And if those are not already being explored, I would ask that the city do so that they are ready to go in the instance in which we are another 2 weeks down the road, or 3, and need to begin to exercise contingency options. Let's have those options prepared so that they can be activated quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Our next speaker is Joaquin Jimenez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. So many things to talk about, but so little time. Today, actually, I'm here to talk about something different. It's a celebration here in the community, Vaquero Days. Vaquero Days is a traditional celebration among the equestrian community. It's the heritage of California, the Southwest. Vaquero Days has been celebrated across California, different areas, San Juan Bautista, down in the Santa Barbara area, and other communities in California. And Half Moon Bay used to celebrate Vaquero Days many years ago. It's in the history book. So we are bringing it back. This year is our second celebration. As you may know, Half Moon Bay is known as an equestrian community. Vaquero Days is sponsored by our local, some of the local businesses, Feed and Fuel, Seahorse Ranch, Pastorino Hay, Acevedo Feed, La Mexicana Market, and many other local markets and businesses in the area. This is a tradition, like I mentioned. We are inviting the communities free to the public. It's an event that's going to take place at the 110 Higgins Canyon Road, the parking lot of the train depot area, right by the fire department, if you don't know where Higgins Canyon is. Our plan is to do a ride around the community, Webcrest to the Coastal Trail to the beach, back up to Main Street on Kelly Avenue, have a small gathering around McDutra Park, and from there go back to Higgins Canyon. You're going to have live music, country western music, Mexican banda, and all the beautiful horses that you'll like to see during the 4th of July parade and other events among the community, and the horses that we ride around town on weekends or weekdays. So we're going to have local vendors. We're also going to have prizes for the kids. They can try their roping skills, activities for the family. We're inviting different organizations to table that event, Like I said, this is a community celebration, community event, and everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. Next speaker is Harvey Warbeck.
The largest number of people I ever saw in Ted Adcock at a city council meeting was when we were considering having Half Moon Bay be a sanctuary city during the first Trump administration. There were over 300 people, most of them Latino. If you look around now, there's Avila, there's Joaquin, and I don't see a lot of other immigrant brown faces. And that's because people are scared. And I don't blame them. I would be scared too if I was an immigrant. I'm looking in my soul to figure out what I, as an individual, and what the city as a community can do to help these immigrants who are worried about their status and about being deported. It's horrible. I have a couple of ideas. I don't think they're going to make a big difference, but one thing that we could imagine doing is having our police departments hand out red cards or have them available so that we can know how to have this information that the 213 No Migra calls. Another thing we can do is have a rally on Thursday, 2 days hence, from 5 to 6:30. We're going to have the Good Trouble rally at 92 and Main. That's one way to show the community that we're on their side. On an individual basis, I think if we have people that we deal with who are immigrants, whether they're working for us or with us, if we can encourage them that we will be on their side. If necessary, if we have to shelter them, we should be able to do that. Because it's, without a doubt, the most important thing that we can do to help our immigrant community who are helping us and have helped us. So please consider what you can do individually and as a city to help the immigrants in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Our last speaker, speaking in their capacity as an individual citizen, is our very own council member, Deborah Penrose.
I'm speaking tonight as a citizen of Half Moon Bay. I am speaking out as an elected official and as an angry and frightened human being. Donald Trump, left unchecked, is going to destroy everything that we hold dear in these United States. He has already shown unequivocally that he has no respect for the rule of law, that he is willing to jail the folks that you vote into office, that he will never allow a question to be asked from a public official that may have the potential to put to the question his agenda. And what will the consequences of your disobedience be? He will federalize the National Guard, usurping the power of your elected governor. He will call in the armed forces. He is saying, be quiet, shut up, or if you defy me, I will come after you, hunt you down, and make you pay. I know that my tone of voice and some of the words that I'm using tonight may seem extreme, but we do not have the luxury of mincing our words and pussyfooting around. This is no longer a contest between Democrats and Republicans. It is not a struggle between progressives and conservatives. What we have now is a battle between what is lawful and what is criminal, between what is sane and what is crazy, between what is good and what is evil. When democracy dies, be careful which side you are on. If it's the wrong side, you and your children and your parents and your neighbors will lose your power, lose your right to choose, lose your right to speak out, and be in dire peril of losing your freedom and your life. If you are an elected official, speak up. Now is the time to protest. It is critical that every elected official who swore to uphold the constitutions of the United States of America and the state of California show that they are willing to defend these constitutions. If you live in the United States of America, please speak up. All of our voices need to be heard. Please protest against what you feel is wrong or dangerous. Do not allow evil to triumph because you were afraid to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Let's see. That's it, right? Okay, that officially closes public forum. And we will, would someone like to make a motion regarding the consent calendar?
Move approval.
I need to remove an item.
What item is that?
1E.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion regarding the other consent calendar items?
Move approval. Well, should I go through each item except 1E?
Just the title of each one.
I move waive reading of resolutions and ordinances. 1B, warrants for the month of June 25, so to accept the warrants for the month of June 25. 1C, approve the minutes from May 6, 2025 to June 17, 2025, City Council regular and special meetings. 1D, adopt a resolution approving changes to the Half Moon Bay Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee bylaws. And 1F, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement through June 30th, 2026 with Cassell, Inc. for enterprise resource planning software in amount of $50,856.
I'll second, and since we have some financial pieces here, can we have a roll call on those items?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Councilmember Penrose?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Mayor Brownstone?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we'll now move to item 1E. Did you want a staff report or a question or just a question?
I think the questions, I thought the staff report was very good. There were just some late questions that came up. I tried to brief you yesterday. I hadn't gone through it, but just some quick questions. First one, do we need to have this implementation plan for our housing element?
I think the light, okay, there we go. We have a lot of housing policies in our LUP. Our LUP was very forward-looking and anticipating a lot of the upcoming housing legislation. So we have a lot of that in our LUP that's not incorporated into our implementation plan. And we also have our housing element, which will need, provided it gets certified soon, will need to be incorporated into the zoning code and possibly implementation plan.
So there are things in the housing element that will need to be incorporated in the LUP and implementation plan, or are there things in the implementation plan that need to be incorporated in the housing? The reason why I say this is because, you know, we're already trying to get our housing element approved, and I noticed the schedule for this is 2028. is anticipated when it'd be finished. So I just want to see if something's going to delay the other.
I don't think one thing would delay the other. I mean, if we fail to get our housing element certified, then we can't implement it. We can't put it into our zoning code. But we already have housing measures in our LUP that we can put in our zoning code, our implementation plan. And just to be clear, this project goes beyond the implementation plan. So the Coastal Commission, we're asking for $500,000 from the Coastal Commission for the implementation plan update, but we also have $200,000 to update other associated parts of our code, which would include the housing element, hopefully.
Right. So if we don't get the 500, and I assume we've been talking with Coastal Commission and working with them to produce it was a very thorough grant application. So we've been working with them. Nothing's guaranteed in life, but are we pretty confident that that we're going to receive this?
Yeah, Coastal Commission staff has reviewed the application and suggested that it was ready to bring to council.
That's great news, because I was worried that 500,000, I'm like, oh my gosh, because we only authorized 200. And so that's, okay, that's fantastic. And then just one other quick question on one of the pages that mentions that because there's this workforce overlay and it's not mapped and everything's in words and interpretations are being made. There was something, it was mentioned that the city recently approved a permit. Could you tell us what that permit was?
Yeah, that was the permit for the mobile homes that were off of Highway 1. You had inquired about that.
Oh, I see. The one by Miramontes Point Road?
Yeah, there were a couple mobile homes for farm worker housing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. That concludes my question.
Can we get a motion to approve?
I'll do the motion since I pulled it. Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application to the California Coastal Commission for $500,000 to fund a comprehensive update to the local coastal program implementation plan.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that's the end of our consent calendar. Before we move into, we're going to take a 10-minute break, so we'll see you back here at 5 to 9. Thank you. Yeah, always get close to that. Okay, welcome back. Okay, our next agenda item under resolutions and staff reports, item 3A, purchase of a new all-electric Ford Transit van. And I think we'll have a brief staff report.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for having us this evening. My name's Todd Seeley. I am the Public Works Superintendent, and I'm here with Maz Bozaginia, who is the Public Works Director. You did hit the nail on the head correctly. We just have a brief PowerPoint, and hopefully we'll have a little bit discussion about this van. First and foremost, why is a new vehicle needed? The current recreation truck is one of the oldest pieces of equipment in the city's fleet. The current truck has outlived its useful life, even for COSIDE standards. The current truck is not an ideal option for what we need the recreation department to be able to do, like moving tables and stuff like that. Tables, chairs, stuff like that. It's just too small of a vehicle to do that. And it's important to note that this replacement was previously budgeted in FY24. Unfortunately, there was something that arose in our operational needs on the public works side, and we had to take that money to purchase a tractor because we needed to bring some work in-house. So it was budgeted before. This has been on public works radar, on the fleet department's radar for a long time to get this replacement done, and we think that now's the time to do it. The benefits of the new van, the purchase would allow for removal of a gasoline vehicle from our city's fleet and replace it with a zero tailpipe emission van. Currently, Public Works maintenance, so our maintenance guys that are out there doing stuff throughout the city, like maintenance of the medians and stuff like that, we spend about 200 hours a year supporting recreation, just because recreation can't fit tables and chairs and all the necessary stuff inside their vehicle. So it takes time away from the maintenance staff on a, at least on a monthly basis to be able to come in and help out and assist with all that stuff. The new van would eliminate this need. And finally, the new van purchase would get the city ahead of state mandates, which are done through CARB, the California Air Resources Board. With regards to EV purchases, the city is going to pursue what's known as the ZEV milestone, so the zero emission vehicle milestones. Currently, we are ahead of the game in that milestone. We have 11 trucks in our fleet currently that meet the gross vehicle weight requirements for these milestones. We have one electric vehicle, so we're just under 10%. The purchase of this van, because of the weight of it, would put us, let me see, I did all this math earlier, 18%. So we'd be ahead of our milestone. Our milestone is 10% in 2027, 25% in 2030, and 50% in 2033. The importance of this milestone is the majority of our fleet are F-250 and F-350 trucks. Electric options for those trucks just do not currently exist. So by getting ahead of the curve on getting of CARB's mandates, it gives us time for manufacturers to develop alternatives for 3/4 ton and 1 ton pickup trucks that just currently don't exist. So I think that is probably one of the best selling points for this, particularly these mandates are going to come sooner rather than later, and whether we want to do it or not, and getting ahead of the game is in everyone's best interest. As you can see, this is a couple of snapshots of the current truck that we've been using. It's a 2005 Ford Ranger. It has seen better days. There's visible rust everywhere. I mean, it's typical of a 20-year-old vehicle. It has some creaks and moans and stuff like that. It runs well. It's a low mileage vehicle. It's only got about 46,000 miles on it. So mechanically, it's in all right shape. It's not in the best shape, but it passed smog the last time we took it into the smog shop, so we got that going for us. On the driver's side door, kind of where that gray paint is, it's not visible. When it does rain, we get water trapped inside the door. So there's a leak somewhere, and there's water leaking into the door, and the rec folks are just dealing with it during the rainy season, slosh into the door every time it opens. Not the end of the world, but just something of note to consider. We did try to mock it up with just a standard 8-foot table, and it sticks way out the back of the bed of that truck. That's what makes it difficult for rec to have to move tables. If there's an event at the library, if there's an event off-site, something like that, it's just really hard for them to do it, and that's where the Public Works maintenance support comes in, and we'd like to try and see if we can eliminate some of those issues. So the million-dollar question is, what are we proposing? This is a 2025 Ford E-Transit van. This is in the medium roof configuration, comes in 3 different configurations: standard van, medium roof, and high roof. We looked at all 3 options. The medium roof seems to be the best. The wheelbase on this thing is 148 inches with 143 inches of usable space inside. Plenty of room to get 8-foot tables in there, stacked to the ceiling, no problem. It does not have any seats in the back, so carrying passengers around would be problematic. The reason for that is electric vehicle manufacturers have to figure out somewhere to put all the batteries, and they put them basically where all the seats would go. So the batteries run the full length of the chassis all the way from just behind the bulkhead to the tailgate area, essentially. And the plug-in is actually kind of conveniently located on this vehicle. It's the plug is right under the blue oval on the front, so there's a little door that pops down, gives you plenty of options, especially with the size of the vehicle. It gives you plenty of options for charging, whether you're going to be charging from the left or charging from the right. Shouldn't be any issues for the end users of this vehicle to get in there and charge it. So that was my brief presentation, and I'd like to open it up to any questions that you guys may have for us.
I got a question. Oh.
So it looks to me like we just got one bid.
Yes, that is correct.
So are we not required by law to get 3 bids for a purchase like this?
So electric vehicle, yes, we are, and our purchasing policy states that, but we have the option to use sole source for a vehicle like this. The problem with that is, so in most larger municipalities, they use what's called a cooperative, for lack of a better term. NJPA, Sourcewell are some of the organizations that do this, but it's pay to play. So you pay a fee, a yearly fee, and they will do all of the bidding for you and do all that kind of stuff. If we had 200 pieces of rolling stock, it would probably make sense. We have 12. So in bigger organizations, that type of purchasing makes sense. The problem with getting 3 quotes is it would be very difficult to get apples to apples comparisons, right? Because we're dealing with limited inventory. EVs are flying off the shelves. The ordering window for next model year isn't open. They don't know if it's going to open next model year. They're having a hard time sourcing materials for the batteries, you know, the standard issues, supply chain stuff. So we did not get 3 quotes. We've worked with Town Ford before through their commercial department, their fleet department, and they give us their government pricing, basically. They deal with tons of other cities. They deal with Daly City, Millbrae. There's tons of people that go to them for their fleet needs. So we're recommending that we go the sole source route.
And so under what authority can we do sole sourcing on this sort of purchase?
So the city adopted a purchasing policy in 2021 that includes the requirement to get 3 bids for purchases over $40,000. It also includes a list of exceptions that are coextensive with the public contract code. And so one of those exceptions is for goods or services that can only be obtained reasonably from a single source. So that would be I think what Todd is referring to in terms of that exception would be used to go with the single source route as opposed to the 3 bids.
Is what you're saying is that these vehicles are hard to come by and very few people sell them, or?
I don't have the factual information about the particular vehicles. I'm just referring to the purchasing policy, that there are exceptions. That one seems to align with what Todd has explained. There are other exceptions that would apply, including an exception where it's impracticable to seek bids. That would, of course, be a determination, you know, of council if that would or would not apply.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand how the sole source exception applies in this case. Like, how does the exception you cited apply here?
Well, I think as Todd has indicated, EVs are hard to come by right now because of the supply chain issues. This is not just like we went online and we spec'd out a vehicle and then we order it. Like, this is an actual vehicle in the configuration we need at a location that we're not finding anywhere else. And so if we don't sole source this through them, it's unlikely we'll find it anywhere for a reasonable amount of, in a reasonable amount of time. And if we go to other dealerships to spec this out, getting apples to apples is going to be very challenging. So really, for what we need, this is the place to get it for the best price because of the government pricing. And in conversations with Catherine, we believe that meets the spirit of the sole source requirement.
If I can just add on to that real quick. Like, for example, because inventory is so low, if we went to another dealership and said, we need a quote on a vehicle in this configuration, the likelihood of the exact same configuration being at that dealership with the same package, options, stuff like that would be very slim. So we wouldn't be getting a true apples to apples comparison on the quote regardless because of the low inventory of these vehicles across the board.
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
Is this 2020, the 2025 version of this van, is this the first year they're coming out with this kind of van?
No, this model's been,
electric?
I believe, since 2022 is the first model year of this vehicle. So it's been out for a while now.
So what's been the reliability, reports on the earlier versions?
Well, that's a great question. So I did actually go down the proverbial YouTube rabbit hole a couple weeks ago, just doing my research. Most of the reports coming out were that it was great. That especially, we're a small city. We don't expect to be doing a lot of freeway driving on it. The mileage range is more than adequate for what we need to do. And the real issues that I saw in my research were extreme cold weather. I saw one of them, I don't even know how to convert it. It was a -7 Celsius. So, I mean, that sounds pretty cold to me. The mileage range dropped significantly when they were operating in those kind of temperatures. Hopefully we never see that weather out here because that's a whole nother discussion about
As a
climate
recently
change.
returned Coastside resident, my wife would argue that we're reaching those -7 Celsius temperatures right now.
Okay. What about, so how many hours on a one full charge do you get on a van like this, assuming an average load?
So Ford rates it at 160 miles per charge, but that is misleading, and I'll explain because I have been the primary driver of our other electric vehicle in the fleet, the Ford Lightning. They rated that at 210 from the factory. Just doing daily driving and hardly ever going over the hill in that vehicle, we're getting about 230. I think the computer's smart enough to realize that we're not operating in cold weather, we're not driving on the freeway. The computer knows this, so the 160-mile range, I expect to get at least 170 out of that.
Okay. Got it. And last question, curious, how much would it cost to lease the van for 2 years instead of purchasing it outright?
That's an interesting question. I've never even considered looking. I never considered looking into leasing of a vehicle.
I mean, I know lease isn't, with a reliable car that you really trust, not always the way to go. But, based on our budget considerations, a way to maybe lease it for 2 years and see how it works. And then 2 years later, you get the version without all the batteries in the back. And so you get, because I know that technology is constantly, but just something, might consider.
Sorry, if I may add real quick on that lease option. I don't know, we'll have to take a closer look on that with respect to liability and other things, because we're going to be using it for some certain functions. So generally for fleets, for fleet purchases, I don't know a lot of jurisdictions that go lease option, but we can certainly look into it.
Oh, and what's the warranty, length of the warranty?
It's a standard 3-year on the,
3-year.
yeah, 3-year on the truck.
I was just wondering, and I asked this to Matthews, we have this local dealership, James Ford, and I bought 2 of my trucks there, and mine broke down on Vacaville this weekend, so I was over at the dealership, looking at the Lightning, which you guys have, and I was kind of hemming and hawing, is this time? And I also read the packet, and I was like, well, I'm going to ask some questions while I'm here. So, number one is, why can't we utilize James Ford, even if it's a little bit more in cost, looking at the sales tax, somebody local? You brought up that you don't like the service there. I'm not, that keen on their servicing, but I've had good service, but it wasn't the best. But that doesn't mean you have to bring it there, and it's an electric vehicle, so it's brakes and tires. You don't have to bring it to the Ford dealership unless you get your updates and your software updates. The other one was, when I was talking to the salesman, he was really leaning towards me and saying, and he didn't know anything about me, I didn't give him nothing. And he was saying, our lease options are ridiculously good right now. You should really look into that as opposed to buying. So I would think that we should look into the lease options, at least look at that, and figure out why couldn't we have them order one, because when I talked to Matthew, he says, we could put this on wait at mid-year. So if we do a wait mid-year, that means we can have a little bit more time to look at it to see if lease option's the best rate to go, and is there other options to buy? Look at Concord, look at other dealerships, and find out if we're getting the best price, and if they'll take the government kind of funding there, or whatever the pricing that we're getting. I think that would be a good option to go. That's all I have. I mean, I was just kind of shocked that we're not looking at James Ford.
So I think Matthew might have mentioned to it in your conversations about the service department. As the fleet manager, I've had the same interactions with their sales department. They were great for a while. I had some turnover in staff, and they have been virtually non-responsive since then. And that's knowing full well I walk in there and identify myself as a city employee, and they're just really not willing to work with us. And also, I worked with our finance department as far as James Ford, obviously, would get some sort of sales tax, right? So the sales tax is based on your actual delivery address. So 94019 would be the delivery address. We'd lose out on 1 cent of sales tax because we're still paying the delivery sales tax to Town Ford. So it would be about $50 is the delta that we would be losing out on there. And leasing is definitely something we can look into. The only issues, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, if we wait to mid-year, we don't know what the climate's going to be like for purchasing or even leasing vehicles then. There could be a shortage in batteries. There could be, if they don't open the ordering window back up and we're not able to get it, then it's just going to kick the can down the road, which is not the end of the world, but it'll just kick the can down the road.
Yeah, and I've shared this with all of you. If there's a desire to wait, we can continue to make do. You know, the vehicle runs. There's some inconveniences. There's some staff constraints that come with it, but we can wait. There's an opportunity to jump on something now. If we don't, then we'll revisit it when the timing's right.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to wait till, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I actually called Greg Jameson and talked to him about this. And he tried to reach somebody in their office about a proposal. They didn't have time to make a proposal for tonight. He did say, though, that 2024 models can be problematic because they've had several different recalls. That 2025 was better, and actually the 2024 models were actually more expensive than the 2025 model. And he said because it's low inventory, he said he thought we were getting a pretty good deal from town. But he said that, you know, James Ford would welcome, you know, he knows about the 3 bid stuff, and he said, you know, at least ask us to bid, and I think we should. They're a local, you know, keeps the sales tax here. You know, 7% has to go to the state, but, you know, we keep the rest. And, you know, I think we want to buy local. We want to set that example. So, but in this case, he seemed to think that we would not be making a bad decision, you know, to go this route for all the reasons I just talked about. But I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm just following up on your comments.
Okay, so is this seems like we might need a little more information around leasing and this and that for comparisons. Just want to know how council wants to go on this before we decide anything tonight then.
I've heard that Concord has one at a good price.
2024.
Yeah, I think it was a 24. Okay. But I didn't know that inside. It's true. Things change in 1 year. But I'd like to look at other sources, and then I'd like to definitely focus on James Ford on this vehicle. And I would like to, if we can wait mid-year, but without jeopardizing the one that you've scoped out and did the work, but just do a little bit, and then lease options. Because he made it very, I mean, he was saying, why buy it? The lease option that we're having is really good. I don't know what I didn't want to spend all day with this guy, but for him to say that to me and stop me and go, don't give me your credit card, just talk about leasing. So let's open that door up. Let's see it. Because if you lease something and when you're obligated and you bought something, you're married to the thing. If you lease it and if it pans out in the long run, it might be the better way to go. And I could tell you there's software issues like crazy with these cars. There's battery issues. There's all kinds of stuff that happen. And when they do, and then the warranty, not to mention the warranty. Try to get the best warranty you can long-term that covers all this electrical stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous how much this stuff costs. As soon as it's out of warranty, it's coming out of our pocket.
I like lease agreement option,
Yeah, why are we talking about waiting till mid-year? Is there any reason why we have to wait till mid-year if we don't make the decision tonight? Can't we just ask you to get the information, figure it out, and get back to us?
I think the only reason I brought that up is there's no real rush and urgency that gives them time to look for the information.
Yeah, I just don't want them to come up with a deal that's a great deal and then have to wait to mid-year. I think we, expedite.
If I can while I'm here, just so we can talk about the lease stuff a little more. In a typical organization, they look at 10-year depreciation on a vehicle. Almost all of our vehicles are older than 10 years, right? So we're outliving the useful life of all of our, the proposed useful life of all of our vehicles. What I'm saying is that a lease just doesn't make fiscal sense in that regard, because now we're locked into leasing a vehicle in perpetuity. Whereas if we were replacing every couple of years, like, on a 7 to 10 year cycle, like the bigger fleets do, it would make more sense. But if we're keeping a vehicle for 15 years, then you got 15 years worth of lease payments. It's just a long-term liability in my opinion, but it's just something to bring to your guys' attention. Almost all of our cars are older than 15 years.
But you said that other truck was the one with 45,000 miles on it?
That's a 2004, so that's almost 12.
It's 11 years, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, got it, okay. So you're not driving that much each truck, because you got a lot of trucks. So what say you, council? What are you leaning towards here?
Just get some more information for the August meeting?
Yeah, August 5th. Yeah. Okay, so let's come back on it August 5th.
Yeah, and it sounds like what we're looking for is check in with other dealerships on pricing, look into the leasing option, bring back that information, and that's fine. This particular vehicle, probably gone at that point, but we'll pursue other options, and hopefully there's some inventory out there that we can still take advantage of. Yeah.
Were we even going to ask James Ford for a bid?
Yeah, we'll include them in scoping out other options for locations, not just Town Ford.
Then I heard August 5th.
That's the next meeting.
Oh, did I say August 5th?
August 19th.
No, our next meeting is August 19th. Yeah. I don't know where.
She was like, oh my God, I thought it. That gives us a little bit more time too.
Yeah. Did I say?
Okay. So you have enough direction, everybody? Good. Great. Let's move on to our next item. Item 3B, fiscal year 2025-26 sewer service charges and assessments. My favorite topic.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. This presentation is going to be a relatively quick one. This is for our annual sewer assessments for this fiscal year 25-26. We do this once a year as is required to bill sewer customers in the city. The request that we have for council for tonight is to adopt a resolution for the assessments, direct staff to work with the county to put the assessments on property tax bills, and then anyone who doesn't get a property tax bill for us to bill them directly. So council already knows the following, but additional background for some folks at home. So the city owns and operates a sewer system, but the treatment is provided by another entity, the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side, or SAM. The city is, however, in charge of billing customers for the use of sewer. These funds or revenues go into our Sewer Enterprise Fund, a whole separate fund from our general fund, and we can only use these monies for related sewer expenses. Now, back in 2020, the city performed something called a rate study. Took a look at our expenses, our sewer expenses, determined what rates to set, and council approved a rate structure that began in 2020 and ended at the end of last fiscal year. So we are due for another rate study, so there's no increases in the assessments for this coming fiscal year. And overall, we have about 3,400 customers that the city services for sewer. So as mentioned, we utilize the county to put the assessments on property tax bills that homeowners receive. There are a handful of parcels that don't receive a property tax bill. In those cases, we directly bill them ourselves. It's about 170 customers. With working with the county, what happens is that we provide them the list of all their parcels, what the sewer bill is going to be. They put it on the property tax bill that people will receive in the fall, where it's due in December and April of each year. For those property tax assessments, there's about 3,300, so most of our users in the city. And the county deadline for this is July 31st. With that, with the financial side of things, the total for this year is $7.3 million, and this reflects what the rates that were adopted by council way back in 2020. But there's no increase because we're outside of the council the year that was approved. So we are due for a new rate study. We had budgeted some funding for that in this budget, and then we hope to proceed with a new rate study conducted this year so that it can be ready for this time next year. And of course, it would be a Prop 218 process, which involves noticing and a public hearing. With that, fairly simple presentation, but the recommendation is as follows. Adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2025-26 sewer service assessments and charges. Number 2, direct staff to file the assessment roll and authorize the county controller to place the assessment charges on the County of San Mateo property tax roll. And number 3, direct staff to bill assessments directly that are not on the tax roll. And myself and your Public Works Director, Maz, is here to answer any questions.
I don't think we have any public comments, so we can go on to questions, clarifications.
I had a question. How many parcels or properties do we have that aren't on tax rolls?
I think you just had it.
About 170, 172.
And then, so July 2026, we want to implement the new rates, right? Because we have to have them to the county before July 31st. So when would we start the rate study to make sure because we have to do the Prop 218, right? The notification, anybody that opposes.
Well, that's a great question. We would be targeting towards in the second quarter of the fiscal year, so sometime starting in September.
So would we have a consultant help us on it?
Yeah, we would initiate with the consultant selection RFP and then go forward with that process with our public meetings and notifications.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? To make a motion?
Like one quick question.
Yep.
replacement and smoke testing, is that basically you guys are inducing smoke into the pipes to see if there's any leaks? Is that what are you indicating on that?
Yeah, those are some of the costs, some of the costs from the assessment go towards our ongoing maintenance, not just the contractor costs. So we do some smoke testing. We have a machine that our public works staff actually built for some localized areas. We've also done larger studies with contractors in the past. That is part of the operating costs that the enterprise funds would go towards.
But that smoke testing is just for looking for leaks or something?
Correct. Cross connections and leaks in different spots, correct.
Any more questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make it. Adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2025-26 sewer service assessments and charges, direct staff to file the assessment roll, authorize the county controller to place the assessment charges on the County of San Mateo property tax roll, and directing staff to bill assessments directly that are not on the tax roll.
I'll second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Councilmember Penrose?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Mayor Brownstone?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our last item, 3C, formation of temporary city council and ad hoc committees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will take this. I don't have any slides. I will just provide a brief overview, and really it's up for your discussion. These are both items that were discussed at a previous meeting as something that you wanted staff to bring back. Just really quick context, and to start out, Catherine Engberg, our attorney, was listed as the author of the report. That is not correct. That's a carryover from a previous report that was similar. She was on a well-deserved vacation last week and was not writing staff reports. So this is from me, and of course she supports it. Just as background, ad hoc committees of the City Council are a tool that are available to the city that allows the City Council to designate 2 members of its body, a non-Brown Act number of members, to work with staff on a particular issue. Typically it's a finite issue and a finite need that's time limited and is focused on achieving a certain result. And based on these 2 issues before us tonight, the belief is ad hoc committees will be a good way to work with staff and try to resolve some important issues in front of us, both of which are financial in nature. The first item, the first ad hoc committee we're proposing is to work with staff on evaluating the staffing and structure of the city organization. We currently have a 15% vacancy rate that is come naturally through attrition, but has remained strategically to give us the opportunity to take on a process like this. Unfortunately, the beat goes on, and based on information we have right now, we're looking at probably a 20% vacancy rate within the next couple of months. Obviously, this takes a toll on staff because the work doesn't change, the workload doesn't change. Other staff have to absorb the work or things get deferred. So it's really timely that we create this ad hoc committee to work with myself, Lisa Rossi, our Administrative Services Director, and all of our department heads as we look at how each department is organized and staffed, but also how we're organized as a city as a whole. I think it's a good opportunity when you have vacancies to do that because it gives you a little more freedom of creativity without impacting existing employees in their current roles too much. And the hope is this is something we can take on immediately and bring some recommendations back over the next couple of months, both structural decisions and potential changes to our job classifications and where those positions sit. And so we would request the appointment of 2 council members to help support us in those efforts. The second item is an ad hoc committee to work with staff on exploring options related to an expiring golf facilities fee. If you go back to the early 90s when the golf courses at the south end of town or at the time it was a golf course, was beginning redevelopment plans to include the second course. A redevelopment plan was approved that required mitigation in the form of a non-resident golf fee that's charged to any non-Half Moon Bay resident that plays golf at either of our golf courses. But it was time limited and is, we believe, set to expire in September of 2026. We currently generate about $650,000 of general fund revenue from this fee. And so that obviously a big impact to city operations. And so this ad hoc committee would work with staff to identify options, to work with Ocean Colony Partners, who owns and operates these golf courses, and explore other options for backfilling some of these fees. So the hope is, again, appointment of an ad hoc committee to work with staff and get to work. We have a year and a half, but that year and a half will go quickly, and we've got some important decisions to make there.
I would, before we take public comment, I would add to that for both of these ad hoc committees, the expectation would, no major decisions would get made. The ad hoc committees would be reporting back into the rest of the council, at various key decision points before proceeding, and keep everybody informed and make sure there's a consensus on moving forward, because they're, in a sense, advisory committees. We have one public comment before we...
Yeah, I think Councilmember Nagengast has a point that should be made so that the context is correct for the
Because I work for Ocean Colony Partners.
Sorry, I forgot. Right, that's right.
So I didn't know there's two different things going on here on the same item.
Yeah, we have two separate resolutions, so correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, but you shouldn't participate in the discussion on the golf course fees. You obviously wouldn't be eligible for that ad hoc committee, and you shouldn't vote on that item. But we don't need him to fully recuse and leave the chambers for this, do we?
Yeah, correct. I assume there's not any substantive discussion about the merits or the substance of that. Really, the action is just to form the committee, and I understand that you would not participate in that committee.
Would I abstain the vote, or could I actually vote on that?
I'd recommend abstaining from the vote.
But I can still stay in the room.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You can stay.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us of that. I apologize.
Okay, so with that, Bruce Russell here is to make public comment.
Yes, my name is Bruce Russell. I'm a resident of Half Moon Bay, and I'm also own the company that manages the golf courses. And I was here starting in 1986, so I was here when this document was created in 1993. And I can resolve the conflict issue by terminating your employment if you'd like.
So I could vote tonight.
We would certainly entertain the ad hoc committee, the staff, the city attorney to discuss options here. I'm here just to kind of clarify how this happened and to clarify a few errors that were in the staff report, which you just clarified. First of all, the staff report indicated that it only applies to one golf course. It applies to both golf courses. And that's kind of a sore subject because in 1993, when this owner participation agreement was entered into, the city was approving the new golf course, which is now called the Ocean Course. It was then called the South Wavecrest Course. And the city wanted to impose a tax. At the time, there was no other city in California that imposed the Golf General Fund golf tax. And to my knowledge, there's only one other city in California right now that does it. And so it was very contentious when the city decided to impose it against the first golf course that had been in existence for 21 years and was not being approved. So I just wanted to clarify that, and so that everybody kind of had, if two of you end up on the ad hoc committee, that you kind of have a background of this. And I've also offered to give to the city attorney the actual copy of the document. It's very long, it's like 100 pages long, but it deals with a million other things. But with that clarification, bring it on, we'll talk about it. I want to make one other comment. The tax has been in place the agreement's 35 years. And so it phased out at 35 years, long agreement. In those 35 years, our record shows that we've paid the city a little over $18.5 million. And I want to make one more statement. The golf course isn't owned by Trump Golf or some big troon company. It's owned by a union pension fund, the San Mateo Plumbers Union. And the members of that fund rely on this golf course as well as some other assets for their retirement fund. So this isn't, the tax is a significant issue for them because it's money that they otherwise could charge people, non-residents of course, and put it towards their retirement. But I'll be happy to talk to the ad hoc committee and we'll try to work something out here. Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the background. Thanks, Bruce, for coming tonight. So, yeah.
Are we going to talk about both items? Or do you want to, how do you want to do this? You want to talk about one first? And then
Yeah, I
the
figured
other?
one at a time.
Okay, which one do you want to talk first?
So let's talk about the Committee for Evaluating Staffing and Structure of the City Organization.
Okay, personally, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to have a separate set of eyes, a consulting, to look, to do an audit of what we do, things that were mentioned about what we want to look at, what our priorities are, what are we supposed to be doing, and how do we make it happen with knowing we have a structural deficit and potentially on the same item, another 650,000 potential loss. So I, would want to see a consulting firm. There's a lot of them out there, and this is what they do. They look at your organization and help you. They don't have cookie cutter things they do for everybody. It's what your organization needs. Each organization is unique. We don't do the same things as San Mateo or Daly City. We're Half Moon Bay. And our priorities, which council has come up with, are totally different than, another place. And I've Woodside, I'll use that just because I've worked there too. So totally different. Equally unique, but different. So a consulting firm can help us, look at that. So I would strongly recommend that we look at having a consultant assist us in this process.
So you're thinking putting out an RFP for a consulting firm for
Yes.
for that purpose? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Any other comments on that?
How much would that cost?
Well, we'd have to explore that, and maybe instead of an RFP, we'd do an RFQ, and that kind of, it's kind of putting out what we're looking for, and then we get some feedback from different firms, and then we put out the actual bids, just because it's not something we've explored before.
Yeah, and I mean, with a city that's running at a deficit, why are we adding another cost? I don't understand the need for it.
Well, I look at it as to help us. You say a need. What do we? I don't want this to sound negative, but how do we know what to look at or what to fill? I mean, we're each going to have our own ideas as opposed to experts that can tell, hey guys, why would you do this? You have this. Or you look at the organization, you could maybe split something in two. I have no idea how that would be, but just having something separate.
So I know somebody who actually does this work and has done it for counties, cities, special districts, JPAs, and they can look at a lot of different things. They can look at job classifications. They can look at the management structure, based on your scope of your revenues. They look at a lot of different things, but they spend a lot of time talking to employees and management and the governing bodies about, what are your strategies and goals, whether it's in terms of providing services or reducing your structural deficit or whatever. But they're basically human resource and organizational specialists. And a lot of people use them. If you go to a consultant and look at all the different entities they've served, you know, it's usually huge numbers of them. And this is a very common thing. So it's not like we're splurging here. It's a common practice, as far as I've been able to tell. So I think it's an idea worth looking at. But I think we need a separate meeting on this item to sort of hash out these sorts of issues. Tonight it's just to establish this, you know, this ad hoc committee, but I think we need a meeting where it's on the agenda and we have this wider ranging discussion. Like, I think we need to define what is our core mission and get agreement on that, you know, because that's going to drive whoever we hire, or at least our own actions if we don't hire anybody. So I think this is a little off topic tonight. Tonight's just forming the committee, but we have another agenda item where we discuss this more robustly.
I think there's a lot of value to having a neutral third-party consultant come in. I mean, we haven't even finalized our priorities. It felt daunting the last time we, you know, try to finalize that. So a third party which is experienced working with other different sized cities, but, you know, ones who have worked for smaller cities, can be really invaluable in terms of bringing that knowledge and experience of what other cities have done. And by having a neutral party, it makes it easier, you know, to reach consensus and, you know, not worrying about people pushing a certain agenda. They want this, they want to cut this, they want to build up this, you know, to first really get some sound data, you know, from a neutral party.
A little at arm's length.
What?
What's it at arm's length?
Arm's length is another way of putting it, yeah.
You know, I don't think we need to put things at arm's length. My sense is that this council is responsible for setting policies about what we want to get, what we want to have our city become, what we want our city to be. It's a council decision. We make decisions all the time based on what we think are the priorities of our city and of our citizens. Getting a third party in at an expense, which is another thing to add to our deficit, because they have experience doing this, and they do it in a lot of cities. And, I mean, that's not an argument I can buy. I don't understand that argument.
I think this is off topic. It's not on the
Excuse me.
agenda.
I'm talking right now, and it is on the agenda because you were the one that brought it up, getting a consultant in. Okay, well, whoever brought it up, Paul brought it up. And I disagree with Paul. I don't think that's something we need to spend money on. I think our city can figure out for itself, our council can figure out for itself what it is that, what direction we want the city to go in. We know we've got a deficit. We know we've got a cut. We don't know where. We've got great staff that can help us figure out, tell us what it is that they do. We can figure out whether or not we want them to be doing that. I don't understand. I don't understand it. You know, just because other cities do it or because there are firms out there that do it doesn't mean it's something that we need to do here.
I agree that it's our responsibility to set policy, but it should be policy that's well informed. And I think it's a question of whether or not, it's something we check in with staff too. Because there's a lot of cities, I know it's come up before, Matt Patrick's brought it up. We're not the only city with a budget deficit these days. And these things are going to get structurally tougher and tougher, right? Because there's less money coming from the feds to the state, to the county, to us. So that's a reality that we need to also ask staff honestly, is this there's a certain piece that comes up, like what are the options here that we have that I would want staff to say, we're not sure. And feel like okay to put out a contract for some consulting groups that might be really experienced at that and help staff. I don't feel staff should, we're in dire straits in many ways. And I think it's smart to sometimes say, I don't know, and be able to call in some experts to help us. And we don't have to spend a fortune. It might be on certain issues, how to arrange budgets in certain ways and figure out all our projects that we work on and how to prioritize those.
And these folks have experience with labor unions and MOUs too. Yeah.
We don't have to make that decision now, but I just like it on our radar screen that I want staff to feel comfortable if they say, this is beyond some of our.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what staff has to say about that.
I think the vice mayor was spot on. We're way off topic at this point. We really are. August 19th, we will bring back an item. It doesn't have to be a long item, but we can make it broad enough that this discussion can happen. We can define kind of the scope of what we're trying to accomplish here and the resources that we want to deploy to make that happen. And then the ad hoc committee and staff can be off to the races. Okay. And hopefully that will kind of, because time is of the essence here. We're drowning and we need some help. So if we can define that quickly, hopefully that allows the ad hoc committee and the staff to move quickly, that when we bring stuff back, it's for decisions. So I would recommend, as your city manager, to allow us to bring back an item, get a subcommittee appointed tonight, and we'll bring something back August 19th.
So for that first subcommittee, I know as I was reaching, was looking at the description. It is a real focus on human resources, finance committee. So I would like to be on that ad hoc committee because I'm already on the finance committee and I'm on the human resources committee. And I feel that being able to have that knowledge, be the bridge between those two committees and really help connect, strategically what's going on in finance, what's going on. I have a background in human resources too. If no one objects, would anyone else volunteer and love to be on that ad hoc committee? Good man. Anybody else?
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah. You've had. Congratulations. We haven't voted on yet, but we can take a quick vote. Do we have to vote on each one?
Yes, we need a motion.
Okay. So I have to word it the way we had it up here before?
No, you could make a motion to appoint Councilmember Negengast and yourself to the ad hoc committee for evaluating the staffing and structure of the city organization.
Okay. I move to appoint myself and Paul to the temporary ad hoc committee for evaluating staffing and structure of the city organization. So I have to do a roll call?
Ask for a second.
Second. Anyone second?
I'll second it.
And you can ask for all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, our second ad hoc committee.
And if I could just jump in, we had the discussion about whether Councilman Negengast needed to recuse, and I noted, well, there's not going to be any substantive discussion of the item as this appointment of the ad hoc committee. We did have, the council did have some substantive discussion on the last item, and so I did just want to clarify that assuming that there's no substantive discussion on the fee itself or, all that, no need to leave the room, but if we're actually going to get into the substance, I would recommend that Councilman Negengast officially recuse and leave the room. But it really depends on what the council wants to do. If you, Yeah, I mean,
We'd prefer to keep it just a discussion of who's going to be on the
we prefer to keep it
committee.
very procedural, yes.
And for Paul to stay in the room.
All right. Well, Ocean Colony is in our vice mayor's territory, correct? So I think it might make sense to have our vice mayor.
I was also on the council when the original participation agreement was entered into, so.
I'd like Patrick to be on it.
Do you golf?
I've had a discussion with Bruce a couple days ago. I mean, I'm not that good at this stuff, but I mean, if you want me in there, I'll be in there. This is not my expertise in negotiating and all that stuff.
It's not negotiating, really. It's just.
Well, it's about how it was written, and I'm here in the background. It's like, this one's a tough one. I mean, I'll give it a crack.
Debbie will help you.
All right. Then, yes.
Thank you. All right, so I move that we appoint our vice mayor and Patrick to the creation of a temporary ad hoc committee for exploring options related to the expiring golf facilities fee. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone again? Anyone again?
Abstain.
Yeah, abstain. Great. Motion passed, yes. Whew, that was easy. Moving right along. Commission committee updates?
None tonight.
Okay. Future discussion, possible agenda
Well,
items?
I have one council update.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Only that you may have seen in the Daily Journal that One Shoreline and the county partnered to install a microwave repeater up on Skylon Cemetery that will enable flood gauges in Pilarcitos Creek to talk to this flood early warning system that One Shoreline has set up. And the goal now is to get somebody to allow us to install a flood gauge in Pilarcitos Creek, which is going to require some conversations and some persuading on the part of staff, the city, and One Shoreline. But we'd like to get something done before the next winter. The goal is, right now there's a gauge at the Highway 1 bridge, but it doesn't really give you much of a warning, it just records flow. What we want is something further east that will at least give us a half an hour warning, for the dam were to fail or, flash floods like that happened in Texas. So we need time to, evacuate people, maybe deal with sand plant issues because, the electrical room was flooded there at the end of 2022. I think we're making, some good moves, but we still need to get something in the creek. And especially, it's important now, we have new housing development located adjacent to Pilarcitos Creek. We want to protect that. We have many businesses. We have our corp yard. So this would give us a higher degree of protection. So we want to get this job done before the winter. Oop.
Thank you.
Piggyback off with something that I noticed at Pilarcitos Creek also. Jim Ream, who's the planning commissioner, lives right there where you can see what's going on with Caltrans. So his deck looks at the backside of the bridge.
Huh.
And he called me after Bruce's meeting yesterday when I talked to Bruce. So I went, I'm in your area, let me go check it out. So he's showing me how they're taking the trees down behind the backside of the bridge now, and this is on the west side. And they're taking this huge tree down and all the limbs and everything. But he goes, but Pat, look at all the debris, because that's what woke him up to be looking at that. He says, look at all the debris that's in Pilarcitos Creek right now that's been there for a long time. This is the time, I think personally, get that creek cleaned out. There's trees in there. There's pallet, wood. There's structures of stuff that just junk, and that's just clogging the drain, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go further up, when I went back in there, and Matthew's seen the pictures, and I think I've shared to Paul, all that unhoused debris they left inside the Pilarcitos in the little side chute, little trails. It's just stacks of garbage that's never been picked up, even though there's nobody really living there. Well, there was one tent there. It's still there.
Yeah.
So I think when we have this emergency CDP and we have the fencing up and we have everything and we have the monitors, this is the time to be cleaning it up in that area. I think, personally, saving money. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Is that it, folks? Oops.
Future agenda items.
Oh, I asked before. Future agenda items? No one's saying.
I just wanted to raise the issue that we need to schedule, we need to schedule the city manager's upcoming performance evaluation for September sometime. And I think it's time to also review the shoot contract. We haven't had a head-to-head for a while. So I just want to bring that up so we can get those scheduled.
Good, thank you.
Do
Second.
you need to second that or anything, or is that just something we can do?
Well, you can second it if you want.
Because I've seen habit, if something comes up.
Second.
you second.
Done.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone okay? Great. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for everyone who showed up online, here in the room. We'll see you August 19th. 19th. Thank you.